the American people fit to govern themselves, to rule themselves, to control them? I believe they are.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. There is the love of God. And if you have any doubt concerning the love of God, look at the cross.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And this makes us special among the nations of the earth. Our government has no power except that granted it by the people.
And welcome into another edition of American Heritage Live. My name is Jeff DeShazo. I'm your host. My co-host Ron Myers across from me. Hello, Ron.
Jeff.
And in the booth.
Do you realize? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, and in the booth is Daniel Connor, our premier producer. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Do you realize that we have now changed our time officially?
We have.
So if you're driving along and you're used to listening to music at this time, you're in for a pleasant surprise.
That's right.
At least a surprise.
That's right. And it will be a pleasant surprise as well. But normally we were 6 to 7, but now we are broadcasting from 11 a.m. to 12 noon here at 97.7 The Peach, and we'd like to welcome in our new listeners. And be sure and stay through the entire show because we have a very special guest from UAB, our political analyst, Larry Powell. He's become a favorite of the show for his insight, and what we like about Larry, he keeps it right down the middle. Doesn't play favorites, and that's what we need a political analyst to do, to keep us off the rocks and give us his viewpoint from the lens of an analyst, bird's eye view of what's happening in the nation. As always, we want to thank our sponsors, Jason Ingram with USC Title of Alabama, Sonny Maynor with Hometown Lenders, Jim King, Brad Phillips with Homewood Auto Body Specialist, and myself, Jeff DeShazo, with Keller Williams Realty in Hoover. Now, Ron, I think you have a couple of items for us to open the show.
A few congratulatory messages
Wonderful.
here. One is from Senator Morris Winky Winkman. You remember him, Jeff.
Good old Morris.
You haven't blocked him out of your mind, right? Well,
No.
He's alive and well, and he sent this to me. He said, "Dear Ron and Johnny, all the best to you in your new time slot. We'll listen after the elections, and please say hello to Governor Jerry Brown for me." Thank you, Morris. Also, Bob Lockamy sent this one. Look at it this way, guys. It could have been moved to 2 to 3 a.m. time slot.
Right.
Thanks, Bob. My sister Anita from Florida texts me this message. "I guess I will have to adjust my nap time to an earlier hour in the day." Thanks, Anita. We really appreciate that. We're on our way.
On our way. Those are great. Well, let's lead off with our highlights and headlines as we usually do to open the show. Just happened today. I saw in the news that it looks like the White House are admitting, of course, in the last couple of days, that they underestimated ISIS, and right now the fall guy seems to be James Clapper. He's the director of national intelligence, and I'm wondering, one of the things we wanted to ask Larry about is the potential backlash of that. What do you think about that?
Well, one of the things we need to ask Larry is this, Jeff. When the VA scandal broke out, the president stood up and he was talking as though he was a separate entity, looking at this thing from a different perspective. He's the man in charge. He's responsible for whatever happens, either right or wrong, in this country, whether it's him or any other president. The same would apply to the governor. So I think that bringing Clapper up right now and trying to put the blame on him is interesting.
Yeah, I think got to thinking about this. I think maybe what we want to do is go ahead and prepare to bring in Larry Powell a little earlier into the show. But moving on here, I wonder how the airstrikes in the Middle East, the impact of that is going to have on the elections. I know that there was a hue and a cry for a long time, Ron, for airstrikes, something to be done. And the national response seemed to have been, the attitude was that the president took too long to respond, seemed to drag his feet. It's come out now, we've known for quite a bit of time now, that the president was advised in his White House briefings for at least a year by the Pentagon and the national security team about what was happening with ISIS, and just didn't act on it. And his advisors really encouraged him to act, but he would not. And it seemed like finally, because due to public pressure to do something from Democrats and Republicans, he finally began to put together the airstrikes.
Well, you see, that goes along with what you brought up just before, that he's trying to pin the blame on Clapper in one sense of the word, and then all of a sudden, well, he's known about this for over a year and didn't do anything about it. So, both ways are wrong.
Yeah, I got you.
He knew about this, the threat of this ISIS group.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's going to be interesting. Whenever you have national defense measures taken by government, it always is a game changer. It did under previous administrations, under the Bush White House, the Clinton White House, going back. Whenever there's a national defense operation, large or small, it does affect the mood of the nation. Now, you can call into question motives, things like that. President Clinton took a lot of heat when the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke. There goes a missile strike to the aspirin factory or whatever that was. Boom. Wow, look at theirs. You know what I'm saying? So he was accused of trying to get the attention off of himself. So there's always a backlash.
But people usually band together in this
That's
country,
right.
And they back the president.
As they should.
Right.
As they should.
In times of war. What concerns me today, Jeff, I saw this on TV the other day, and I just shook my head a little bit. There was 300,000 to 400,000 people marching in New York on climate change issue. They want changes from this country dealing with that issue. And that the left side of the aisle, the ultra-left side of the aisle, has become so influential right now in this country's direction in politics that it looks like it's a new ball game. There's been backlash about the president even acting with the airstrikes from the left. So, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what our guest has to say.
Well, certainly his base does not want any entanglements in the Middle East, but your run-of-the-mill Democrats, though, realize there's a problem, and they're certainly calling on the president to act and to respond. Well, I'll tell you what, it's time to take a break, and on the other side of the break, we'll be bringing in one of our favorite guests, political analyst from UAB, Mr. Larry Powell. It's always a delight to have him on the show. Don't go away, folks. Be sure and alert your friends with text and also on Facebook that we're back on here at American Heritage Live. We'll be right back after the break. Jim King is a concerned American and one of our sponsors and friends here on American Heritage Live. Jim is on the board of the Hedges and Highways Prison Ministry. They provide adults and teens leaving prison with assistance in these areas: counseling, support groups, assistance in finding housing and employment, food and clothing and education. Right now, they're raising funds for gift bags, which includes items not provided in prisons. These items include toothpaste, washcloth, shaving cream, soap, and shampoo. It is amazing how many are in prison without any connection to family or friends. These gift bags will lift their spirits and allow them to feel support from a ministry that will help them once they get out. Hedges and Highways is a 501c3 organization, so all contributions are tax deductible. At the moment, their goal is to raise $20,000 for the gift bags, and they need your help. Please make checks payable to Hedges and Highways Prison Ministry, P.O. Box 112075, Birmingham, Alabama 35211. Or call Director Lois Gardner for more information. That number is 205-516-5634. 205-516-5634. Please call them today. And welcome back into American Heritage Live. I'm your host, Jeff DeShazo, and I want to take a moment to tell you about my business with Keller Williams Realty in Hoover. I've been in business for 17 years when we're having a great market. You might have heard for yourself how wonderful the market is when you're buying and selling homes. Right now, my listings are averaging just about 10 days on the market, which is extraordinary. So if you're a homeowner and you want to capture this market as it is right now, as we head into the cooler months, I wouldn't hesitate. You still got time. Write this number down or put it in your smartphone, 205-223-7653, 205-223 sold 7653, and we'll make an appointment, and I'll come by and look at your home, and we'll give you some advice and counsel about how to get your your house prepped for the market. I'll walk you through step by step, and we'll give you those guidelines as well, because homes are selling quickly and for good prices right now. We're going to be closing on a home in Highland Lakes for $450,000, a very nice 4-bedroom, 3.5 home, and for 101% of the sales price. And you can't beat that if you're a homeowner. And wonderful transaction involving seller and buyer. And part of my job is to bring both parties together and represent my client, fiduciary relationship with the buyer or the seller. That's called a single agency. And part of my job is to explain how that works. But from beginning to end, I'll walk with you through the entire process, all the way through closing, so that you feel a job well done and have no problem referring me to your family or friends. Thank you so much again for listening to American Heritage Live. And at this point, Ron, we want to bring in our very special guest, Larry Powell.
Yay. From
UAB. Yeah, Larry got a yay from Ron. He's from UAB and is a professor there, does a great job in the communications department. He's our political analyst. Larry Powell, how are you, sir?
Doing fine. Nice to talk to you again.
Thank you. And you sound much better this time without all the respiratory stuff.
I'm making progress.
That's good.
I may have an attack during the show, but I'm making progress.
Wait till the commercial break, Larry, please.
Could you wait till the break? So
yeah, I will do that.
Okay, good.
Hey, did you watch any, we digress a minute, did you watch any football this weekend?
I managed to get in a couple of games.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, we want to ask you who you pull for, because we know you try to keep it right down the middle there. We don't want to get your family in trouble with you.
Well, I pull for UAB.
Okay, there you go. Hey, that was a smart answer, Larry. Way to go. UAB Blazers, all right. Well, very good. As I mentioned in the email to you, Larry, there's obviously, there's a lot of things we can talk about, but one of the things that just has happened, it's our understanding from news on the AP Wire that the White House admitted that they had underestimated the strength of ISIS, but right now the attention seems to be the focus on Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, kind of pointing the finger to him. Any comments on that?
That doesn't surprise anybody. Most people have already figured out that they underestimate it, and they did. I don't know that finger pointing is going to accomplish anything, and I don't think that the public is really concerned about that one way or the other. I think the public right now is more concerned about doing something about the problem rather than who made the mistake on the problem.
Larry, hi. A couple of questions on that, though. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, sometimes it seems as though the president just separates himself from a situation that's going on where he's responsible for it. He's the main person in charge of this government right now. He is the president. And it's almost as though he didn't even realize that the situation was as bad as it was. And he did this with the VA situation. It's almost like it's their fault, but we're going to take care of this. We're going to fix it. Comment on that?
Well, you're right. And that has occurred. It's occurring on this one, and it's going to occur in the future over the next 2 years. But I think he is on the right track on this one. I think I don't think anybody really appreciated how much this was coming, and that's why I don't think he's getting much blame from the public. I think he ends up winning this in the long run, even though it won't help his image ratings much. But it is going to be, long term, another example of him throwing somebody under the trucks of the tire, under the tires of a truck, other than himself.
Can you remember, Larry, in the past, and I'm sure you can, other administrations where you had this type of attitude, though, where you pointed at somebody other than yourself for taking the blame on a situation?
Well, unfortunately, it's pretty common.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it's right. And I really, quite frankly, think that it was a mistake on his part to do it on this go-around, because I don't think the public cared enough about who was to blame for this to make a difference as for any finger-pointing one way or the other. The public on these issues, they're usually even further behind than the political leaders, and so it doesn't surprise them when these things catch people by surprise. But they just want something done about it. And in the past, you've always had politicians who pointed fingers at other ways. Some people were very good at it. John F. Kennedy could make you laugh at it while he was doing it. Lyndon Johnson was kind of rough and tumble about it, and he would go at you pretty heavily. Ronald Reagan could make you laugh at it, or at least make you think it wasn't that important. And, you know, you go back to Eisenhower and Nixon. I mean, Nixon shifted blame to his dog.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Larry. The effect on the midterm elections, we've got those coming up in November. Yeah, I'd mentioned in the earlier part of the show that whenever there's a national defense maneuver or strike by the president, it does shape the mood of the electorate, and it does have an impact. What do you think the airstrike campaign is going to have? Any impact, if any, on the midterm elections?
Well, if there is an impact, it's going to be a positive one for the Democrats, but I really don't expect it to be big enough to make a difference one way or the other. It's just something that's viewed as needed to be done, and if he handles it well, he'll come out looking pretty good, and his personal ratings are going to go up.
Okay.
But I don't see it going up enough to make a difference in the midterms.
I was going to ask you about the midterms, Larry. I don't know what the key issues are going to be this year. Are you finding that the issues are more local than they are national, or combination, or?
They're always more local than they are national. It just takes the national politicians a while to figure that out. The health care, for example, is not going to be an issue, even though it's one that a lot of people are running on. It is the local things going on within the states that are going to make the difference one way or another in this particular set of midterms.
Yeah, I think it was Tip O'Neill who said all politics are local. Wasn't that Tip?
That was Tip, and he was absolutely correct, and people keep forgetting that.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. Yeah, I agree. It's got people have to. One of the things we try to do on the show, Larry, is to help people connect the dots of what happens nationally and how it affects them locally, and Monday through Friday, and why they should care. And that's one of the goals we have, is try to help people connect the dots. But let me ask you, the anti-incumbent mood, we hear that a lot in the news, the anti-incumbent mood. I know there's some important races like in Kansas. Let's see, where was that race? I believe it was, the Kansas, the Governor Brownback race. How do you see as far as things shaking out in the anti-incumbent mood in the midterm elections right now? Well,
Kansas is one of the places where the anti-incumbent mood could have an impact. In most places, the redistricting is so strict and solid that very few incumbents are actually going to be affected.
Okay.
But Kansas is an exception, and the incumbent senator out there is not doing well.
No.
And he could potentially go down. It's going to be close, but he's in trouble.
Wasn't it his just the lack of success in the tax issues? Didn't that contribute? And I think his opponent's about 5 points ahead right now.
Yeah, the fact that the government has done very little hurts, but the bigger issue is the fact that he doesn't live in the state.
Yeah. That's a big problem.
That is a big problem. It is a major problem for him.
Yeah, I'm representing you folks. I got your back.
No,
I'm just in Florida. I'm in another state.
No, wait a minute. Bobby Kennedy, though, didn't Bobby Kennedy have that same issue going, and he finally moved to New York?
Yeah, but he did finally move. This guy hasn't moved.
His name isn't Kennedy.
That's right.
Hillary Clinton did the same thing. She figured out she had to move to New York.
That's right. She had to say New York.
This is not rocket science, by the way. It's always a good idea to live in the state.
That is
that
correct.
you're running and know what's going on in that state, too.
So what's happening in the old home state?
Yeah, I don't know. I live in Arkansas. What do I know about New York? Anyway, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Larry, I have been seeing different articles on these elections, different newspapers across the country, and I am as confused as can be. Some of the reports are showing the Democrats surging. Some of the reports say the Republicans are now letting loose with more ammunition, more money. What's going on out there? How does it look?
Well, both of those are correct. The Democrats are surging, but they were so far behind that they haven't taken the lead yet. The Republicans are putting a lot more money into it, and that's a particular advantage for them. Last time I was on your show, I thought I told you that I thought the chances of the Republicans taking the Senate was about 60%. Right now, I'm down to 55.
Wow.
Well, that's not bad, though, because you were on quite a while ago.
That's correct.
So you're saying there's a 5% difference. That's not too bad, but there's still a whole month to go.
That is correct.
What could change it dramatically?
Oh, there's still plenty of things that could change it dramatically. We don't know what's going to happen in the foreign situation, and anything that goes bad there can be bad for the Democrats, and it would unfortunately also be bad for the nation. And that's you've got Republicans in the quandary where they can't really hope for a mistake like that to come up. We've also got things going. I think the appointment of the person to replace Eric Holder could be important. I don't know who that person is going to be. Don't presume to know the president's mind on that, but I do expect that he's going to name somebody with a strong civil rights record and dare the Republicans to try to not support him. And if that occurs, it could energize the Democratic base and bring them out for the election.
Yeah, I do want you to get you to comment on that. I tell you what, music is telling us it's time to take a break. And Larry, why don't we shift into more breaking it down a little bit more about the replacement for Attorney General Eric Holder, and also I want to ask you about what could shape the midterm nationally should we get another terrorist strike on the home front. You're listening to American Heritage Live and also The Voice, a political analyst for our show, Larry Powell from UAB. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back. Where do you go to order a property title or schedule a closing on a home? Call Jason Ingram, closing agent and account executive with USA Title of Alabama. USA handles property searches statewide and can close loans at your home or work, the agent's office, or a point in between. You'll love their website where you can monitor your transaction 24 hours a day using their Sure Close technology. And you can also print off documents needed for your closing. At USA, they are dedicated to providing superior service when searching property records, serving as escrow and closing agent, and issuing title insurance for their customers. USA is also a great asset for buyers and sellers and real estate agents that are looking for a flexible partner that can close anywhere. Call Jason Ingram today with USA Title of Alabama at 205-876-1560. 205-876-1560 for your title and closing needs, or just go to their website at usatitleal.com. Birmingham is ranked in the top 10 for hottest housing markets for 2014. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, buying a second-family home, or perhaps needing to downsize, be sure and call Sonny Maynor with Hometown Lenders. Sonny continuously operates from the core belief that exceeding expectations is the only way to do business. Sonny delivers this pledge through unsurpassed customer service. Using leading-edge technology, he can provide the most innovative and creative financing solutions available. At Hometown Lenders, Sonny makes sure that each customer receives the highest level of personalized service and communication throughout the entire loan process, guaranteed. If you like, you can even close your loan right in your own living room. Call Sonny Maynard today at 205-440-2444, 205-440-2444, or go to his website at 989-7171.com. With Sonny Maynard and Hometown Lenders, people before profits isn't just a catchphrase. It's the way they do business every day.
Hi, this is David Barton. You're listening to American Heritage Live with Jeff DeShazo and Ron Meyer.
Invading this place, and I see angels praising your holy name, and I sing praises, I give you all.
And welcome back into American Heritage Live at our new slot, 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Sundays. And for those of you listening for the first time, welcome. Hope you enjoy our show, and by all means, text and let your friends know about our show being on the air. It's about American heritage and some things Americans once knew, perhaps have forgotten. We're here to help connect the dots, not only talk about what's happening today, but how it relates to American heritage in regard to the birthright for Americans. Well, we were talking about earlier, and our guest with us is Larry Powell from UAB, our political analyst. And Larry, I wanted to ask you just, here's something, two things. First, I want to get your opinion on this. One of the things that could shape, as you mentioned prior to the break, an effect on the midterm elections nationally if we got another, let's say, terrorist strike on our home front, another Lone Ranger terrorist comes and attacks a city. If we get starting ramping those attacks up, I think that could have an effect, would it not?
Oh, it definitely could. And that's a hard one for either party to try to take advantage of. But it sort of does its own thing. And it's sometimes hard to predict exactly what that's going to be. Generally, it helps the power of the party that's in the White House, because even in a time of disagreement among the parties on most things, everybody tends to coalesce around a common enemy when that occurs.
Yeah, and we were talking before the break about just some theories about the replacement. We were for Eric Holder. Two things. One, why now? Why is he resigning now? And your speculation on a replacement?
I think I said before, I'm not really qualified to read the president's mind on this, and I wouldn't even presume to try to tell you who he's going to nominate. But the timing is perfect to have an impact on the November election. You can now have the president wait a week or so, then make a nomination for one of his friends who has a really good record on civil rights litigation, and sit back and dare the Republicans to say they don't like it. Mm-hmm. If they do that, that energizes the base. The Democrats come out in November, and it reduces the chances that the Republicans will be able to take the Senate. And I think that's why the timing came when it did.
Larry, Jeff had mentioned something last week that was interesting on this. Also, wild speculation that he may nominate Holder for the Supreme Court. Have you heard anything like that out there?
Well, there's that speculation, but you got to have an opening to do that.
That's right.
And we don't have one right now, so I'll wait and see what happens on that. You don't have to have anybody to step down until the next session is going to be in October of next year, for all practical purposes. So there doesn't have to be an immediate replacement. But if that is the case, that's not why he stepped down. If that was the case, he could wait and step down sometime later. And you can make the appointment with him in his current position.
That's that's what I thought. There didn't have to be a clean break. That while he's in the position, he could be nominated by the president, and there could be couldn't there be backdoor conversations with someone like Justice Ginsburg in the White House, and kind of a setup there.
Oh yeah, I mean, if somebody is going to resign, there have definitely been backdoor conversations, and they will continue.
There's been some speculation, Larry, that this Fast and Furious ruling by a judge had some impact on that. He was withholding evidence on that, and I believe now isn't it the Congress? Is it the Congress? Let's see. He's the first Attorney General in history to be held in contempt by the House of Representatives.
Right.
By refusing to turn over the documents related to that.
Yes, but there is a precedent for public officials doing the same behavior, not just the Attorney General, but other. We had a similar problem with Iran-Contra under Reagan.
Right.
And so it's not a situation that's unique to Holder or to the Democratic administration, and it could possibly have a lot to do with it, but it's not one of those things that the public typically focuses in on.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's I think it gets regarding conservatives and the Attorney General's office. They were griping and complaining because it seemed to be that the Attorney General really seemed to be focused on certain groups for civil rights enforcement. I know there seemed to be documentation coming out that they favored people of color over, other folks to enforce those laws, and saying that we're only going to focus on this demographic and we really don't care about the enforcement of laws being equal for, say, the white citizens. And that really brought some backlash, and so he's not a favorite of all of conservative groups because of that.
Oh, absolutely, but that's also why I think the timing has something to do with the November elections. The Democrats would love for the conservative groups to get on him over the next few weeks and talk about how bad he was, because they want to stir up the pot and get Democratic voters enthused about coming out and voting in November, and that sort of thing would do it for them.
Ron, you had a comment there.
I was going to change direction a little bit here, Larry. Just dawned on me. We're seeing, is it Ann Warren from Massachusetts getting a little bit more active here in the political field? What are your feelings about Hillary at this point in time?
Well, Ann Warren's got a extremely loyal and enthusiastic base of voters out there. They are truly liberal. They view Hillary Clinton as too moderate, and they are highly enthusiastic about her. They would love for her to be an active candidate, and they believe that if she were to be an active candidate, that she'd have a chance of knocking off Hillary Clinton in the primaries. I don't know. I can't get enthused about her.
Okay, what are you familiar with? Like any issues that she is separating herself from Hillary on?
Well, she is distanced herself on the Benghazi attacks on that pretty thoroughly, but she is coming out as more pro-feminist than Hillary is, and she's coming out strong in terms of traditional Democratic issues such as support for Medicaid, Social Security, and that sort of thing. The catch is, I have seen her speak, and she's not impressive. And so I don't know if she can pull it off or not. I know she's got a loyal base of liberals who are going to be very active in the primary. And I do think that she has become a better campaigner over the last 2 to 3 years. But I just don't know that she's good enough yet.
There was some headline in the New York Post this morning that Governor Cuomo is in Afghanistan, of all places. Do you think he's considering a run at it also?
Oh, his name is Cuomo. He's considering a run at it.
You think his dad is involved?
I don't know to what extent his dad is involved, but he obviously is in a very high-ranking position that would serve as a good base if he wants to run. He's making those sorts of moves, like you say. I don't know that he'll pull the trigger when it comes down to the final decision, but he wants to. He would like to.
You know, back to Hillary Clinton a minute. I think, one thing that's not being really discussed is the Benghazi hearings are still kind of slogging along, and they're not going away. And even though they're not being covered in the media, those hearings are slogging along. And I think it's my understanding that about 10 days ago or less, there was a senior official in the State Department witnessed the chief of staff for Hillary Clinton and the deputy separating into two piles, documents for the Accountability Review Board and documents that would put Hillary and the senior staff in a bad light. And they were caught separating those piles. And that comes from a Democratic appointed official who testified to that. And to me, that gives an indication that over time that the Benghazi hearings could catch up with Hillary. And if she's, brought in to testify, I think she'd have a hard time getting through that. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's obviously a blemish on her record. She knows it. Most people know it. And the type of thing that you're talking about, if it's verified, could be something that's going to hurt her some. But ultimately, we rarely make voting decisions on the basis of what happens in other countries. Mm-hmm. And she knows that. And the reason she came out so early, if she's going to run, is that so she knew that could run its course as much as possible before the campaign really got heated. And I don't see any way that it helps her, but I don't know that it's a silver bullet that kills her campaign either.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of like a wait and see. To me, there's a lot of things. I don't know. I think the Clintons are very good at what they do, and I think the campaign machine that the Clintons can put together are very powerful with a lot of allies. Music's telling us time to take a break, but on the other side, why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this discussion and spread a little bit more nationally, keep it close to home? You're listening to the voice of Larry Powell, a political analyst and friend of the show, American Heritage Live from UAB. We'll be right back after this break. Friends, have you been in a car accident recently and need to get some body work done, or do you need a new paint job for that favorite car? Then write this down. Homewood Auto Body Specialists. That's where you need to go. They are locally owned and have been in business for over 23 years. Brad Phillips is the owner and Hubert Underwood is the manager. Most of the staff have been with Brad for over 20 years. Homewood Auto Body Specialists are located at 96 Robert Jemison Road in Homewood. A member of the Better Business Bureau, they service foreign and domestic cars and are ICAR and ASE certified. And yes, they'll provide free estimates. Their equipment is state-of-the-art to handle all of your collision-related work, and the staff trains constantly to stay up to date with all the latest techniques. All services are guaranteed as long as you own your car. They are a direct repair facility and do business with most all insurance companies. They are open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Call them today at 205-941-2410. 205-941-2410. That's Homewood Auto Body Specialists.
Hi, I'm Andrea Lindenberg, and you're listening to the wonderfully gifted, funny, just good-looking guys. Jeff DeShazo, Ron Meyer, American Heritage Live.
God above the world in motion, God above my hopes and fears, but I don't care what the world throws at me now. Yeah, it's gonna be alright, yeah. Come on, you say, hear the sound of the generation.
All right, you're listening to American Heritage Live at our new slot, 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Sundays. And you've been listening, if you've been listening to the show up to now, the voice of Larry Powell from UAB. And we have him on as our political analyst because we need someone like Larry to keep us in the middle and off the rocks to the left or to the right. How about
you're
that,
on
Larry?
The rocks. Sometimes think you're on the rocks. Larry.
You have no idea how bad I am on the ocean.
Hey, listen, you are a star. We're going to make you into a big star here, Larry.
Larry doesn't need us to make him a
true.
big star.
I've got a couple of follow-ups for you, Larry, on the campaign for 2016, and it's heating up a little bit. I noticed in the paper, I guess it was maybe today, Larry, maybe you read it, that Jeb Bush and Chris Christie weren't invited to that conference that the Republicans held.
The Voter Values Summit.
Yeah,
right.
Voter Values Summit. What are your feelings about that?
Well, neither one of them are going to do well with the Voters' Values Conference. And the problem that they both have is whether or not they can win the nomination. I think Jeb Bush is, my personal choice, is that he is the best Republican nominee for president.
Solid.
Yes, he is solid. He could win, and he would be a very good president.
You think they'll shoot themselves in the foot, though, and bring out somebody that may not be a very good candidate?
That is if by shoot themselves in the foot, you mean the Republican Party.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's very likely to occur. Right now, the right wing of the Republican Party is controlling most of the primaries and the caucuses, and you have the potential of a candidate being nominated who is so far to the right that the Democrats will have no problem defeating him. And Jeb Bush doesn't have that problem. He does have the problem that his last name is Bush, but personally, he would be an ideal national candidate except for his name. Chris Christie still has some problems that he's going to have to get over. I don't know how good of a national candidate he would be because he comes off as rather aggressive at times and comes off overly aggressive when that occurs. And even if he doesn't do that, you've still got the problem with the bridge shutdown that's going to hone him, even if it wasn't his fault. And it's something that his opponents are going to bring up pretty heavily.
Yeah, Larry, there seemed to be just kind of some undercurrent I hear from time to time. Why don't the Republicans get together and however they can and do away with the primaries, just pick a candidate, that they're all on the same page and quit going through the primaries, beating each other up, and do something like that as a different approach so that they can win the White House?
That is known as being anti-democratic. And we do live in a democracy, and when you start telling people that you're going to pick candidates rather than have them voted on by the public, you stand a good chance of being killed in the stampede.
Thanks, Jeff, for that question.
I'm just saying. Listen,
take that.
I'm just mentioning what I've heard people talk about.
It's interesting you're saying that, Jeff, because Larry, you remember a time when that was done.
Yes, that is.
Oh,
correct.
sure.
That
Bosses,
the back rooms,
control bosses.
You had guys picked for that office by a select few people that were powerful. So in a way, it really is good to have a primary. But my question is this. In a primary, though, even with the primaries, if the deck is stacked against you, and you're mentioning that the far right contingent to the Republican Party is controlling so much, What good are the primaries going to do if you know going in that you're going to lose?
Well, ask the Democrats. Now, they used to make the same mistake of nominating people who were so far to the left they had no chance of winning. And they have learned how to not do that in their primaries now. They still are nominating people who are on the left, but they're people who are moderate enough that they can appeal to a broad group of voters. But it wasn't but you can go back to the 1990s, and the Democrats had trouble nominating electable candidates.
Mm-hmm. I think you could go Walter Mondale, Ted Kennedy, Ferraro, people like that.
Dukakis. I mean, the old joke was that Dukakis was the Greek word for Mondale.
I still remember Dukakis in that tank with the helmet on his head, Larry. Do you?
Not a good optic, as they would say. Not a good optic. That's the word they would use.
Yeah, you're talking about a group of people who had no chance of winning a national election, and yet they were getting the nomination. And the Republicans used to not make that mistake, but now they are.
And so, therefore, as Hillary moves to the center more, and if the Republicans nominate somebody way far to the right, she's going to look like the logical person to be elected because she'll appear to be middle of the road, which may be.
Yeah,
right?
And she won't scare them.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, Republican candidates are scaring people.
Yes.
I think it's going to be interesting, too, what the independents do, which side they lean, because there are more, in my mind, I think you may disagree, Larry, I don't know, but there seems to be a pretty large contingent of independent folks who could swing the election one way or the other.
Are they liberal or conservative, most independents, Larry?
Most of them are conservative. That hurts the Republicans more.
Mm-hmm. You've got people like Senator Ted Cruz, who's a Tea Party favorite, who's making a lot of headlines, who's come out very strong in opposition to President Obama, the border, the closing of the border and things like that. But when you hear Ted Cruz talk, he has a nasally whine in his voice, kind of like this. And I'm not making fun of him.
No, you're not.
But he doesn't come across as presidential. And I'm a little odd in my opinions about that. And I'm not saying this to be harsh. Please understand. But when you have people like, say, Senator John McCain, they see him from the chest up in campaign. Then you start watching and observing him, and John McCain obviously had some physical disability, and it really started to come out more visually. His arms and the damage when he was in the prisoner of war camp. Yeah. By Vietnam, and there's something there that, in my opinion, Larry, that works on the American psyche when they see a disabled person needing in an office of strength like the White House. Bob Dole, for instance, when they begin to see Bob Dole with those physical malady, it unfortunately transmit a signal of weakness. And sometimes, I don't know, I'm not saying it's fair, but sometimes it works on the American psyche. I don't think they can pull the trigger.
I think the other side of it, though, Jeff, and Larry comment on this, is that people see that. They saw McCain and they saw Bob Dole, and they were promoted as heroes, which they are.
Well, they were. Of course they are.
So, you get a certain percentage of people that see it that way. I think. What do you think about that, Larry?
No, I think that there are subtle nonverbal cues that the Republic responds negatively to, even if they're not able to articulate that themselves.
That's what I'm saying.
And in the case of John McCain, for example, he could not wave to a crowd, and he was just physically incapable of doing so because of damage to his shoulders. And I think that hurt him.
See, I'm thinking of FDR.
But see, with FDR, the public couldn't sit, and the press worked in cooperation to keep that hidden from the public.
And it worked.
And it was only late, if I recall, Larry, if I'm correct, in one of his last inaugural addresses, or at least before the State of the Union, for the first time he sat down. I think, Ben, his third presidency, for the first time, other than that, he has to lock those braces in place, has to get help getting up out of the chair, and he has to unlock them, and he has to get help sitting down. Public never saw that.
That's correct. The public never knew that he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, yeah. And he was one of the, he was a favorite of this country as far as, looked with favor as far as, yeah, Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to go back to this Jeb Bush candidacy. First of all, Larry, one, do you think he's going to run? And two, what does he have to do to overcome this obstacle of not being to the right enough and that last name?
He's going to have a really good turnout organization, and his problem is that he may be waiting too late to put that together. There are a bunch of people who would love for him to run, a bunch of people who think he could win, and I'm one of them who thinks that he could win. But you don't win just by saying you're going to run for the position. You've got to have a network of volunteers in key states who are going to help you win or at least finish second in those primaries so that you stay in contention. And he's got to start with Iowa, and you've got to start working on that next year.
Just to follow that up, Ron, excuse me, the thing with Jeb Bush, he just, again, I work more on the intangible, the way I think, but he just doesn't strike me as that fire in the belly candidate that some of the others, and maybe that hasn't come out yet, maybe it's because of lack of press coverage, but, with George Bush and his father, Senior, you saw that. There was this drive, there was this, I think Jeb is probably the least outgoing of the three. I don't know how you feel about that. Maybe that's some of it, his personality, that kind of maybe translates a little bit less fire in the belly. Any thoughts on that, Larry?
I don't think he does have the fire in the belly, but I don't think that's his problem. He's really a smart guy.
Yes.
And he's really a thoughtful administrator and a thoughtful leader. And he considers decisions carefully and usually makes the right one. And that is the type of person that's needed in the White House. And so he's got the resume of a really good person. Not having the fire in the belly does not bother me. I really think that anybody who wants to be president is probably not qualified for the job.
It all comes out, ladies
Hello,
and
Hillary,
gentlemen.
are you listening?
It all comes
Whoa.
out.
How about
Larry
Mitt
Powell
Romney?
has tipped his card.
Hey, Larry, Mitt Romney is a name that's been bandied
I was just going
around.
to say, we
that
haven't
beat you to the gun there.
You did. Go ahead.
How about Mitt Romney?
Nice guy, honest person, but probably not going to win. He didn't win last time, probably will not win this time. If he could run against Barack Obama again, he could win. But he's not going to run against Obama. He's going to have a different candidate up there, and it's going to be hard for him to put it together.
Establishment money will go to who? If Jeb Bush doesn't get into this, who is the establishment going to back? Do you think it'll be Chris Christie?
I think the establishment is the precise people who are pushing Bush to want to run, and I think they're going to be perplexed if he doesn't. And I don't know who they would go to.
They're interesting. I think he probably will run. I don't know. I don't think his. It'd be interesting to see what Barbara Bush has to say.
I'd run her.
Yeah. Well, but she's very involved in her son's campaigns as far as her thoughts. She gives him opinions, but of course he's going to do what he wants to do. I'm not saying he's under apron strong. I'm not saying that, but I don't know. That's an interesting point. I think Larry makes a very solid point about where the establishment money is going to go to.
Now tell me a little bit because it's been so long since he's been governor of Florida, Larry. What were his major accomplishments in Florida? I know he was supposedly a really good governor, but I wasn't familiar what he did.
Well, by and large, he was successful in balancing the budget, which is difficult to do in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it without making a lot of people mad, which is even harder to do in Florida. Other than that, he was pretty active in trying to bring groups together, which is something that needs to be done. He irritated a bunch of Democrats occasionally, but they were going to be mad at him anyway, and he was even able to do things that pleased him at times. He was just more remarkable for anything else than the fact that he got things done. He kept the government running. There was not a shutdown or problems going with it, and he did that in the face of an economic situation that was not great.
Let me ask you this, one final question, Larry, and then we're going to wrap up here. What is your biggest concern? Just on a personal level, if you can, and you've got the freedom always on the show to say that. What is your biggest concern for our country right now heading into the midterm elections?
I see a country that is in conflict and in stalemate. I see a country that can't get anything accomplished. It bothers me that we have political leaders who are more interested in politics than in government, and that we have people on both sides of the aisle who are picking fights that they hope they can win, even though they don't accomplish anything for the nation as a whole. I have seen more stalemate and everything going on now than I have ever seen in my life. It used to be that the Republicans and Democrats disagreed, but when the day was over, they went out and had dinner with each other. Those times have gone and they've passed, and there's no respect for each other's opinions anymore. That really scares me.
Larry, of all the candidates out there, who do you think, I know you like Jeb Bush, who else do you think can unite the parties, unite this country?
I'm not certain that even Bush can do it. You've got such a stalemate in the House of Representatives right now. There doesn't appear to be anybody capable of stopping that at all. And I don't see anything changing in the Senate regardless of who wins control. It's still going to be a partisan bridge going on there. And you've got, even if Republicans take control of the Senate, they're not going to have the ability to override a veto. So nothing is going to get passed if they won't pass. I mean, that's just not going to occur.
Well, Larry, we sure appreciate you being on the show. It's been great. It's gone by fast, and we hope you've enjoyed being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. You've been listening to the voice of Larry Powell, one of the great professors there at UAB, and we view him as our political analyst. Larry, thank you again for being on our show.
Thanks, Larry.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir. Well, Ron, it's been quick, and it's been a quick hour, very quick hour. And we want to tell our folks that next week we're scheduled to have Brenda LeDun on our show, and this same hour, 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Sundays. And let me remind you that you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/American Heritage Live. And please like the page and also share the page with your friends, and you can see updates. We'll be having archival shows placed there to our YouTube channel, so be on the lookout for that. And we want to thank our sponsors as always. Jason Ingram with USA Title of Alabama, Sonny Maynor with Hometown Lenders, Jim King, Brad Phillips, and Homewood Auto Body Specialist. And myself, I'm a sponsor too, Jeff DeShaza with Keller Williams Realty in Hoover. And don't forget to listen every Sunday afternoon, 3 to 6, Bob Lockamy and Jamie Jones on Sports and Stuff. And we'll be having great guests with us from time to time that you'll enjoy listening to very much. Well, Ron, what do you think? Another great show?
I enjoyed Larry immensely. He's just a great straight arrow guy. Yeah. Thanks again, Larry. We'll look forward to having you back on.
Many
this
times.
Has been an exciting time.
It is an exciting time.
I hope Anita stays up.
Yes. And to those of you who'd like to follow us, don't forget at AHR Live on Twitter and our Facebook page. Encourage you to do that. Keep up with the photographs there. We always try to take photographs of the show and let you know what Ron or I are up to, and also photos of our guests as well. Last week we had Rabbi David Sneyer and Leslie Sneyer from Beth Hillel. So look on our Facebook page for photographs there. You've been listening to American Heritage Live. We'll be back next week from 11 a.m. to noon on Sundays here at 97.7 The Peach. Tell others about our show, won't you? And if you'd like to sponsor the show, just get in touch with us on our Facebook page. So long, everybody.